Okay, hello and welcome to our 17th Conversation to Connect. Let's Get Real Talk, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm CyndiONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. At Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. So each week, I nominate a different member of our community to be able to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice and take notes and so that we can be able to enter into a conversation around the 45-minute, 1-hour mark. I'll be unmuting the lines and our listeners can actively engage in questions or share their epiphanies, their ahas, and enter into our thought-provoking conversation. So the inspiration of our weekly conversations to connect, Let's Get Real Talks, is to create purposeful conversations. So it's our desire to be relevant during these challenging and uncertain times, and also to support our community, to make an impact in the world and to stay connected. So as we get started here, I invite you to set aside any distractions, invest your attention to the conversation that is about to unfold, and look for one idea that you can take away and put into action so that you don't cheat yourself out of the time that you've invested here. Our conversation to connect this week is with the amazing Barbara Krauss from Sammamish, Washington. Hi, Barbara, welcome.
Thank you.
So our topic today is Being Alive is an Art, an invitation to a wake-up party. And I'll tell you, all of you listeners, you're in for a treat. Barbara and I have had a wonderful conversations to be able to prep for this call, and I'm really excited about this conversation and getting going with it. So before I do that, before I bring Barbara on, it's my pleasure to share with you a little bit about her background and just information about this amazing friend. So Barbara Krauss, his business is the Center for Experiential Living. Her focus is to create a space where stories are born and built on 3 pillars: creative experiments, sensory engagement, and storytelling. So as a storyographer, story collector, legacy holder, Barbara deeply believes that being alive is an art and that each one of us is responsible for creating our own masterpieces, our own legacy. So her life work is to activate this mindset through the process of intuitive creation, intuitive creativity, and creative expression. One of her specialties is guiding people through living eulogies, helping them express their legacy and create their eulogy while still living. What a beautiful, beautiful aspiration. Her newly published book, Forever Treasures, an anthology of life and legacy, is a tribute to the legacies and loved ones that have gifted us and that we're alive. So it's a collection of 50 stories honoring tangible and intangible gifts that live on as forever treasures, and they are stories of the gift of legacies. Beautiful.
Here's the...
And there's your cover.
There it is.
And so just describe, so that's a tree on a book.
There's a tree on a book and the roots. So the roots are where our stories begin. The tree, the book is where our stories are written and read and spoken, and the tree is the tree of life that holds our legacy.
I love that. The imagery is beautiful. So Barbara, tell us more. I read your little bio because I wanted everybody to really have a sense of who you are and a little bit about your journey and the things that you're passionate about. But tell us more about your background before we get started, before we jump in here.
Okay, I'll start with my current background.
Okay, perfect.
So, by training, I'm a certified creativity coach, and I specialize in the creative arts. And I focus on creative space. So I invite people to step into creative experiments and sensory engagement and storytelling, which I'll talk about a little bit as we move into this. Cyndi said I was a storyographer. I actually made the name up. I was thinking about how I work with people, how I work in the world. And what came to me is it's very much like being a choreographer, where a choreographer creates story through movement. So I decided I would be a storyographer to create story through stories. So I made the name up, and it's a really fun name.
It is a fun name. I love it.
Yeah. Like Cyndi said, living eulogies. I enjoy people's stories, and I enjoy people telling their stories. And we have so many stories inside of us that we ourselves get to choose what we want to share. And so the eulogies are a way for us to say, here I am, this is who I am right now in this moment, and this is how I want to be remembered right now. And it's movable, you know, it changes a lot. And like Cyndi said, Forever Treasures is my newest book. I also wrote another book called, what's the name of my other book? See, I remembered it really well. Fearless Choices. And it's another anthology of stories that people wrote about what they said yes to in their lives. So I'm a storyteller. I'm a story collector. give voice to stories that are just waiting to be told.
You are, and I love that about you. We met about 10 years ago at another networking event, and at the time, your original business was Center for Organic Recipes, and you were a creative coach. So you've always had, that's part of your essence is, you know, being passionate about other people's stories and being a cheerleader for their stories, right? I love that. So tell us more as we get going here tell me more about being alive as an art and what that means to you.
Okay, well, I'd like to frame that around the context of creativity. And everything that I do and talk about has to do with creativity. So in the context of creativity is where being alive is an art. And also in the context of being a storyographer. So like I said, I made the name up, and it's dancing with stories. So being alive with an art, it's movement. It's being in the moment of creativity. It's how can I explain this? It's about we get to create a masterpiece every day. Every moment we live our day, the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we go to sleep, even in our dreams, we are creating our art. We are creating what it is being alive. So we get to do these mini masterpieces all day long.
Oh, I love the imagery of that, the fluidity and the whole idea of mini masterpieces. That's just a beautiful thought. So, so it's not a stagnant process, right?
Not at all. It's a moving target.
That's beautiful. So tell us more about, how being alive is an art, how that really manifests itself, other ways that we can really sink our teeth into that.
So when we're talking about creativity, if I use it in the context of creativity, I put forth that we are all responsible to create our own masterpiece as an expression of who we are. And my work is to activate that mindset of being alive as an art. And the joy and the journey of being captivated by the organic flow and the freedom of intuitive creativity and creative expression every single day. every single moment.
So your passion is to activate that mindset, right?
Correct.
In
Yes.
others and for yourself as well.
Yep.
Beautiful. So,
so Cyndi, let me ask you a question. You know, we're talking
okay.
about creativity, and I'm always curious. What does creativity mean to you?
Ooh, okay. You know, the first thing that comes to mind actually is kind of ironic is to me, it's like, you know, drawing inside the lines. Think of a coloring book, you know, when we're kids. And so it's just really drawing inside the lines. And I can tell you that there's discomfort. I remember growing up in drawing outside the lines. And they, you know, they encourage that, especially in public school. Draw inside the lines and trace it out and stay inside the line. But I do love color and music and planting my garden and manifesting my vision. And so those are all ways of expressing creativity as well. Music, you know, playing the piano when I was younger.
Yeah, it's interesting because I live outside of the lines. For me, 1 + 1 does not logically equal 2. I may get there, but I need to go outside of the lines to get there. But as with you, that's the creative process that gets me there.
Right.
So we were talking about my artwork, which you can't see. I have a whole wall of artwork because the way I'm situated here, you can't see it. But I'm also an artist, which I didn't say, but I have been doing, it's very glary. I have been doing these 6x6 collages. And they're kind of like vision boards. I do vision boards all the time, but there's these little pieces. This piece was called Intuition. I don't know what I'm doing when I start. I'm attracted to color, I'm attracted to shape, I'm attracted to whatever attracts me, but I have no idea what is going to show up and what it is that's calling me to be an expression around it.
Right. Well, I love that. I mean, whether you're coloring inside the lines or outside the lines, it's all part of the creative process. And, you know, vive la différence, right?
Oui, mademoiselle.
That's right. So we're all different, and that's what makes, you know, life beautiful. And, you know, your vision boards, your way of manifesting what's in your head and putting it in a tangible, you know, on paper.
Yeah, making an object. Yeah.
Right. I love doing vision boards also. And it's interesting how it goes back and forth. So, you know, it's in here and you put it on paper, but when you see it, it goes inside you as well.
Yes.
So there's this amazing, you know, kind of synergy that goes on.
Yep. Yeah.
So when you talk about creativity, how do you see it? Because we kind of touched on it a minute ago when you said, you know, you don't really know when you're coming to the creative process. So what is creativity to you?
So I have a couple of quotes that I love that really kind of answer to it. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read it. So first thing is that creativity is far beyond what we think it is. And it's a way of being. And it's not what it is, it's where it is. And this is what being alive as an art is based on. So creativity is not a noun or a verb. It is a place, a space, a gathering, a union, a wherein the divine powers of creativity and the human power of imagination join forces. Where the two come together is where beauty and grace happens and explodes. Creativity constitutes the ultimate in intimacy for the place where the divine and the human are most destined to interact.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
And with that every day living in the divine, we get to create these masterpieces all day long from the thought process every step of the way. So
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, go on. No, I'm fine.
Well, I was just going to say earlier you referred to them as mini masterpieces.
Uh-huh.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because I love that visualization of us creating mini masterpieces every day, because it's, it's not just being in an art class, right? And doing something as an assignment.
No.
It's just, it's like breathing, really, right?
Yeah. Um, you shared with me, Cyndi, about your love of the process of growing your squash and baking squash bread.
Zucchini bread, yep.
Zucchini bread. So, the mini masterpieces come from the thought, oh, I'm going to go plant the seeds. And it even started with you creating your bed to put them in. I'm going to go plant the seeds. And now I'm going to nurture the seeds, another little masterpiece. And now I'm going to do all the steps that take you to baking your bread. I mean, these tiny little masterpieces every day as you are in the process of creating your major masterpiece. And so you go and you make this bread, and the joy of you being in the kitchen and the little masterpieces that you're creating as you're being in joy of being in the kitchen, easy for you to say. And then the ultimate part of it is eating it, getting to taste what you've made. But it came from all of those little creative masterpieces of creativity. And
the mini masterpieces.
The mini ones created this big masterpiece.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And we got to tell a little background here. So when we were prepping for this call, I had a little piece of zucchini bread that I was eating while we were talking. And she said, every time you take a bite, your face lights up. And I can tell you're enjoying it. And so it's true. I love that. From the inception of the thought of I'm going to grow a garden or, start a garden to what am I going to put in my garden? And then tending to that particular, that plant and nurturing it and to fruition of being able to do something with it, whether it's make a casserole out of it or make a bread. But that's a beautiful analogy for life, because how many things in life do we take for granted, and we look at the end result and we don't always even celebrate the end result. So, I really appreciate my time with you, Barbara, because it's having me appreciate the little things in life and be able to celebrate each thing, like, taking a bite of the zucchini bread and enjoying it and realizing the journey, that brought me to that point. And, so it is, being alive is an art. And I think part of it is just being able to reflect on that journey and appreciate it.
Right.
Not take it for granted, right?
Right. And we all walk through our lives every day. I mean, I do it too. And we don't think about that we're actually moving through a process. And we have a relationship with everything and everyone in our life. And there may be times when we feel lonely, but in reality, we are in relationship with everything in every moment.
Yes.
And
it's not just people, right? It's the world. It's, so many things that what the picture that comes to mind for me is, the mundane can be magical.
That's beautiful.
It's just the eyes that we see it with, how we perceive it, and the opportunity to be able to appreciate the world around us and really not take it for granted.
Right.
Which is easy to do, but
easy to do.
I love that. So, and look at things through children's eyes, because that's the fresh, fresh opportunity that we have to look at the world.
Yeah. I always say, I wake up every morning and I say a little prayer and I ask that I step more deeply into my curiosity and wonderment.
Mm.
I never know I never know what the day's going to bring me, but if I
Right.
step in with it.
But what you're doing is there's anticipation,
Right.
right? You're like starting the day off. So that's, that's a beautiful way to start the day off. Like, I wonder what's going to happen
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
instead of, oh, I don't have anything on my calendar, or if the things you do have in your calendar, you're not looking forward to. So, you said this earlier, we have a relationship with everything and everyone in our life, and we need to really embrace that.
Even with those who bug the heck out of us.
That's right. Step on our toes, right?
That's right.
In this dance of ours. But we may feel alone, but when we look at it from that perspective, in terms of we have a relationship with everything and everyone, we're not alone.
No.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we may not always be awake, aware, and alert. That's kind of my new thing that I feel from a spiritual sense God's saying to me. It's time to wake up, everybody. It's time to be awake and aware and alert.
Yep.
And wake up to the magic of being alive and the magic of being connected to everything and everyone around us. Because when in reality, we are all connected. Even though we haven't lived in different continents, we speak different languages, we're from different cultures, there's a way in which we are all one.
Right. And I think, I'm sorry, go on.
No, I just think it's beautiful.
And the way that humans are connected is through our stories. I mean, we speak our stories all the time, and they come from a place of remembering every time we tell a story. And that's that piece of creative ingenuity that lives within the human being, is that we're able to tell our stories.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that's been around since the beginning of time.
Oh
right?
My gosh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you hear about the cavemen and doing pictographs, in the caves, and around the campfire, telling stories, right. And right. the verbal history,
right.
Being shared through the generations, right. and then of course with the printing press, all that changed, right. But that's been going on way before the printed word. Yeah.
But that's who we are. Right. We are storytellers, and as we tell our stories, our legacy continues. Someone is receiving them.
Right. Well, do you notice that when you haven't seen old friends or family for a long time, kind of the thing that I've noticed that we all do is we tell stories of funny things that happened in the past, and that bonds that group.
Yeah.
And it's not about just living in the past all the time, but there's something beautiful about shared memories. And, at the time they might not be so funny. They might be actually, right. A little rough or tough or whatever. But so yeah, I love this conversation. I love the, just the really understanding the legacy of storytelling. So before we move on, I'm just curious, what do other people say about creativity when you ask them? So you asked me, and I gave you kind of my knee-jerk reaction as a little girl. I think I'm more creative now than I was then, but in some ways, because I don't feel as stifled. But tell me more about what other people say about creativity.
It's very simple. I think the majority of the people who I speak to, I mean, just being in conversation, when I say, oh, I work with people in creativity. Oh, I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I ask what that means, and they said, because I'm not an artist. And it's so interesting how creativity is connected to the concept or the belief that you've got to be an artist to be creative. So, which gives me another thing. I have another quote I want to share, it's another beautiful one about what creativity is. It says, the most visible creators are those artists whose medium is life itself. The ones who express the inexpressible without brush, hammer, clay, or guitar. They neither paint nor sculpt. Their medium is simply being. Whatever their presence touches has increased life. They see, but don't have to draw, because they are the artists of being alive. And that's where being alive as an art came from. But that, there's an answer. And if I could memorize this, I would be able to tell people, able to say this, but I don't memorize it. I have to carry around a little card with me. It says, oh, wait a minute. Here, let me read this to you.
Well, but what you're saying is we are all creative.
Yes.
Our essence is creative. It's
right.
not what we're doing, it's who we're being.
Right. Exactly.
And so if you look at it that way, you don't have to be an artist with a paintbrush and your medium. You don't have to be a writer. No. You don't have to be a
dancer. Yeah.
A dancer. I mean, those are different ways to express creativity, right. But just who we're being is a creative act, because we're all different.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all do it different.
This is amazing. This is a great conversation, because I think it really boils it down to the essence of who we are as humans. And we talked about creativity, how it's accessible to everyone, even if you're not creative, right? You don't think you're creative. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed that children just innately have this sense that they're like Rembrandts. They just ooze of creativity, and they know it and they don't doubt it. So where does creativity go when we grow up?
That's a really good question. And I think if you watch children, they don't even know what creativity is. You give them some chalk and let them draw on the ground, and these beautiful things show up. And they're so proud of what they've done. And there's no self-judgment at all.
Right.
I studied a movement practice called Nia, and it's fusion movement. And one of the teachings that it's based on is from a kinesiologist. His name was Moshe Feldenkrais. And he studied human beings and movement. And in his studies, and the people that he worked with, which were mostly adults, he noticed that they're stuck in movement, which are some of the reasons why we hurt ourselves and why we have arthritis, because the way we're repetitive. And another piece of his studies was watching children between the ages of 1 and 4. And seeing the fluidity in the way they moved through space. And if you watch a young child move, when they reach for something, it starts at the bottom of their feet and runs all the way through their neck, through their entire body, so that everything is engaged. And it's the same way with the thinking process, is that everything is engaged. You give a child something to play with, the whole being, the whole body, the whole mind, spirit is involved with it. What he noticed at the age of 4, because of brain development, is where the cutoff starts. And he started noticing that children are stuck in movement, in their motions, and also their way of thinking changes. Because then they become conscious thinkers, and they start listening to the words behind as well. This isn't good enough. So the belief system starts changing, but it has to do with the change of the brain that happens when we're 4 years old. And I'm not a scientist, and I don't know everything, but this is what I know of part of what his studies were.
Does that I heard you kind of say, it takes into account the environment. So, words of affirmation or judgment can affect it as well, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how can we access our creativity?
Ah,
Loaded question, right?
I'm in a place in myself, in my personal work, in a place when I'm with other people, is that, it's kind of, come on, people, it's time to wake up.
Woo.
And I'm inviting you to a wake up party.
All
And
right, let's do it.
I don't have any music.
We need like
I
balloons and
know.
confetti and all that kind of stuff.
So the wake up party is telling our stories, especially now, whether they're these beautiful, lovely, loving stories or these dark, scary, not so happy stories, but it's who we are. And I think it's so necessary, especially now, that we be in a place of being able to be with others with our stories. And my goodness, we all have our COVID stories now. I mean, these last 6 months have been quite interesting, and we have all got stories and just the telling of them. But the other piece of it is Araya's little poem, The Invitation. And she says, it doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for.
Mm.
And that is how we are. Our stories are the things that take us into being able to talk about what it is we ache for. And that's the waking up. It's just, I'm the waking up. Come on, wake up.
So there's a yearning, right? There's this yearning.
Yeah.
I like the word aching, but yearning and calling forth, right?
Yep.
And not to be apathetic too.
Right.
To be, the whole awake, aware, alert. And I think now more than ever in this time in history, I think it's important for us as humans to be more engaged and awake. I think that, it feels like a lot of people are more apathetic and have gone to sleep. And I just feel as a collective group of humanity that I feel a sense of people waking up. So I love the invitation. And for those people who are already awake, like, let's celebrate it, right? Let's celebrate life.
Yeah.
So you've invited us to a wake up party. What's next? Because I know you have some juicy stuff to be able to share with our listeners as we close here.
Yeah. I wish I could share a beverage with all of you, a wonderful creative beverage and some creative morsel to eat, but we can't do that right now.
Such as Zoom.
Yeah,
we could put the creative thought in their minds.
That's right. What is it that you would like to drink right now?
That's right.
What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What's the texture like? So we could play that too. What I want to share is the work that I do, which is based on 3 pillars of creativity. And it's to begin to open the creative process for us to be able to stand in our truth and to also be in curiosity and to live with the wonderment about what stories are in me. How can these show up? How can I really be part of this wake up party and have a sense of who I am in this world? So the first of my 3 pillars is creative experiments. So what do I mean by that, right? They are easy, non-threatening ways that we get to try new things. Something that we have never tried before. Knowing that our creative process is going to take us into an experience of the experimentations. And it might be something as simple as wearing a boldly patterned scarf. Oh, I never wear these. What would it be like to wear this? Or taking a different route when you're driving. Like, I quite often will start headed towards someplace and I know how to get there. Oh, I think I'll take that road instead of that road that I know. I mean, that's the creative experimentations. And, you know, it's also taking a first step forward towards a dream instead of moving away from it and feeling paralyzed. Take that creative experiment and move forward towards it. I even say, even taking up tap dancing and you're atrocious at it, just doing it. So there are all kinds of creative experimentations that we can do. And so when I work with people, we explore what that would be. They get to tell me what it is.
Right. Well, those creative experiments that you've alluded to, I mean, it reminds me of, they talk about creating different neural pathways in our brain. And so like, even if you choose to, you know, write, so I'm right-handed, and write with your left hand, or eat with your left hand,
Right.
or, you know, put things on in a different order, or just mix things up a little bit, right?
Yep.
All those things help build those I'm not an, you know, but anyway, they build the muscles, right?
Yeah.
They create the pathways,
right.
the synapse. I remember my learning about that. And so those neural pathways are a way that every day we can mix things up a little bit.
Exactly.
We can shift things up a little bit. We can, you know, use instead of just going on autopilot.
Yeah. And the creative experiments are something that we get to push a little further. You know, oh, I'm not comfortable doing this, but I'm going to try it anyway. So quite often I'll work with people, and I work with writing, I work with doodling, and I work with stories, but the experimentation is playing with words. What comes up when you doodle? You know, I'll give an example of I'll say, okay, doodle such and such, and the discomfort of the drawing disappears. It's the creative process of doodling.
Oh,
so it's going into different realms of things that we're uncomfortable with. Go throw a piece of clay on a wheel, see how that is.
Yeah, because doodling by definition is more like free flowing and doesn't have to be perfect, and it's expendable. It's not like art you're gonna, you know, frame and put on the wall, right?
So all of this that I'm talking about is incredibly playful work. And I'm not to say that I'm pushing aside the discomfort and those things that make us sad, but it's a playful way of getting to places.
I love it. So let's move on now to the second pillar of creativity,
which is sensory engagement. This is all about igniting our senses. So one of the things I love to do is that when I wake up early in the morning and I walk outside and the air is crisp and cool and a little bit damp, and the pine trees, the fragrance of the pine trees just permeates the air. What the smell and the feeling that I get from the air bring up are all these memories I have from being in camp when I was a kid. And so the stories start coming up. If I invite someone to taste a strawberry, what does it taste like? And don't tell me it tastes like a strawberry, because I already know that, but what does it taste like? What does it feel like? You know, what's the texture? What does it smell like? What stories come up around it? So I use all of the 5 senses in the sensory engagement. It's activating the engagement of our life source, of our body and our mind and our spirit. I mean, that's what our senses open us up to.
Mm. It reminds me of a story I've got to tell that my son, my youngest son, was doing bodybuilding. And he was on a very, very strict diet for, Emerald Cup, whatever, in Bellevue. They were doing the bodybuilding, and he was only eating like the week or two before, probably botching the story terribly for those who are bodybuilders, they'll understand, but he was only eating like chicken breasts and potatoes without butter, right? And just really bland food those last couple weeks. And it was summer. And so I was, he was home and I was like, I'm going to buy you some fruit. And I bought all this beautiful strawberries and blueberries and, bananas and pineapples. And I made a fruit salad and he watched me make it and I served him some and he goes, "Oh, I can't eat that, Mom." And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that?" He goes, "Well, because I kind of wanted to, just be around the fruit." And I was wondering, Mom, can you eat a strawberry and then describe it to me? And I was like, "No, that sounds cruel." But, it is a sensory, so there must have been something that he was like, that fed him in some way. I think it was kind of sick, but I wouldn't participate in that. But, he was craving it, but he had a lot of discipline and was saying, "No, I can't have any sugar. I can't have that natural sugar right now. Next week, Mom, buy it for me. But this week, no, I can't."
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting that the sensory experience is amazing.
Yeah.
Our five senses, to be able to be in tune with them. I know that was a little weird story, but
but you see what just happened?
Story, right?
Exactly. So your creative process was, got you to the point where you were able to share that story. I mean, it came to be, which takes us to the next pillar, which is storytelling.
Which is perfect, right? Because that's what I did.
Perfectly. So you baited
me very well.
Your creative experiments and your sensory engagement, and then they inform the stories that we have. And the stories and the storytelling are they're the base of how we organize our thoughts and help us to communicate them. So if we
and connect with people too, right?
What?
And connect with people.
Connect, yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. It's an engagement. It allows us to engage with others, but it also allows us to engage with ourselves. And storytelling is a lot of remembering. And that deliciousness that we hold inside of us, where we get to reconnect with who we are. And it's that we have the personal power to be able to express our stories. And like I said, it's whether they're happy stories or they're sad stories, but storytelling is full of choices. It's our perspective on things, it's our voice, it's conflicts that we've experienced, it's resolving conflicts, and just committing to these choices is just powerful. It's just as powerful as the story itself.
So, okay, the visual that comes to mind when you talk about that, as it's unfolding, right? That's the word that comes to mind. Stories unfold and they blossom. So it's like a rose on a vine, just opening up and blossoming.
Yeah.
And it's just fragrant and beautiful and bigger than life, right? It has a life of its own.
Very much. Very much. And how telling one story can inform another story, can inform another story, can inform another story. I'm taking a writing class right now, and I started writing, she said, I want you to start writing about your home, where you grew up. And just start writing about the house. Well, within 10 minutes, I'm not writing about the house anymore. I'm writing about my neighbors. I'm writing about a fight I had with a little boy that I remember. I'm remembering trying to push my mother's car up the driveway and thinking how stupid that was, and letting it go, and it went across the street and took out a tree.
Oh
But
dear.
just by writing about my house where I grew up, all of the other stories that are engaged that come to life from that.
Well, even before you just told this last little story about the stories, I was thinking about this visual of dominoes, this domino effect, right? And that's what happens essentially when you're letting your free, your creativity, your brain just go, and you start someplace and you end up someplace totally different, because it is a series of ripple effect, domino, I don't know, whatever words you want to use.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That takes you to a whole different place.
Yep.
But that's the beauty of our creativity in our minds. So in closing here, this has been a beautiful conversation. And thank you so much for sharing, your passion and your expertise with us, and just having us be able to rethink these 3 pillars of creativity and how we've gotten there, that journey. So what are your final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners today to have them consider?
So I think there are 2 questions that I would like to invite all of you to consider, and you can decide whatever you want to do with them. You can see if they inform stories and inform you to tell stories. You can see if they might inform you how to walk out in the forest differently, or how to pick up a cup of tea differently. It's just, it's all about the way of being. So the first invitation, it's a question, that if you could experiment with ways to live your life in full octane sensory artistry, in which every moment is an art. So what if you could experiment with ways to live your life in full octane sensory artistry, in which every moment is an art? That's the first question. The second invitation is, what if you could access your life stories in a way that helps you make sense of your experiences and express your life and legacy to the very fullest? What if you could access your life stories in a way that helps you make sense of your experiences and express your life and legacy to the very fullest?
So not viewing life as an accident, but that there's a design behind it, right? And it's just coming to peace with your life. Is that part of what you're saying?
Yeah, that everything that we've experienced, whether we believe it was for a reason or not, but everything that we have experienced makes us who we are right now at this moment. Yes. And when we all say goodbye to each other, we've got new stories. Mm-hmm. But it's that our stories are our legacy, and that's the way we get to express our lives.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for serving up such a rich bounty for us to partake of today. I'm looking at creativity and the 3-pillar process that you've shared with us today in a whole different way. And I'm going to walk away from this conversation just being more aware of the many masterpieces that, that our hands are touching, that we're being a part of. And also, although we didn't talk about it directly, what was woven through the conversation is the connections we make with others and our world around us, and the opportunity that we're not just observers in this world, but we are active participants, and we get to play, right? This idea of joyful creativity and play and experimenting I love that. I love that new perspective. So thank you for that.
And curiosity and wonderment.
Yes. Beautiful. So before we share with others how they can connect with you, do you have any parting thoughts that you want to share in conclusion before we open it up to the questions and answer period?
Well, I think those couple of questions that I posed, which was the invitation, but it's just, I just invite you to just what I said about curiosity and wonderment, that live your life. All of us, we get to live our lives with curiosity and wonderment. And what does that mean to each one of us? And I take it back to being a child, and that curiosity and that wonderment that we lived in so easily with such grace and ease. It was just part of who we were. It's still there. We just have to let it come out. We may have to dig, but it's there. I promise, because I found it.
Invite that our, the essence of our childhood, to invite that to come play, right? I love it. That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Barbara. Your friendship, getting to know you even, at a deeper level, in preparing for this conversation, and this conversation today has been just a joy. What a blessing to all our listeners who are going to be able to listen to this on our YouTube channel. So for those who want to engage with you, get to know you better, work with you, I know you have a website, but what is the best way for people to engage with you?
Well, probably to email me is good. So it's Barbara@barbarakrauss.com. And my website is barbarakrauss.com.
That makes it easy. Perfect.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of goodies in there.
Nice. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute and see if we have anybody that wants to play with us here. So I'm unmuting, guys. If anybody wants to join in, they can unmute themselves as well. So it's been a fascinating conversation. Was there anything that jumped out at our listeners that they want to be able to engage with Barbara in this conversation?
I just love talking about this stuff. Okay, I'm sorry, Chuck.
No. So here's my deal. This is so far away from my kind of thinking. It's unbelievable.
But you think in the lines.
Yeah. I'm the kind of guy that for most of my life, I'm the guy that is the best guy you'll ever want to know to get from point A to point B, the quickest, fastest, most efficiently. I'm that guy, and I'm an adventurer, and I do have a lot of curiosity, but I've always never really looked at the journey. To me, it was just about how do I get from point A to point B, and how do I do it fast, efficient, and better than anybody, right? So the last probably 10 years or so, 15 years, I've been trying to get away from that and being more about the experience and about the journey. And so I've made progress. I've got away from this perfectionist kind of thing, because now I'm away. Well, I think my life has gotten better personally, because of it. So now, like when I was a young man, I used to play the guitar a lot, and I stopped because I could never. I technically I could play it, but I couldn't make the instrument sing. Really sing and tell a story. I couldn't do it. So now I've been thinking lately that maybe I should go back to it and see now, because I moved away from this perfectionist type of attitude to more the journey and the experience, that I might be able to finally be successful. So like your question one, I wouldn't even know where to begin or how to connect to that question. I have no clue.
Which question? The what if you could experiment in ways in your life? That one?
Yes.
You already answered
so
it.
Out of my realm.
You already answered it. The guitar. I mean, just the mere fact that it brought guitar up for you allows you to sit in a place of curiosity about, oh, wow, well, the guitar came up. What would it be like if I were to go and experiment with that again? Because I have a whole different way of being in the world now, and that my relationship to being with the guitar will be different. And it's also the guitar is just an instrument from which you express. I use a pen. I use paper and glue. Those mediums allow me to move out of the linear. But Yahoo, you already answered that question, Chuck. See, you're so brilliant.
I'm also a writer. I love to write, and I've been struggling with being linear in that as well. So it's interesting because when you said your question about how to engage kind of with life, I'm like, yeah, I can't even connect to the question. So I think that's interesting.
But you did.
And then you did.
You did.
See, I'm so unaware that I didn't even know I connected with it. So that's interesting, I need to be more around people like you.
Yes.
Get out of that kind of engineering kind of mode,
Well, like we said earlier, viva la différence, right? We all are different. That's a reality.
Right.
And we need each other.
And the engineering mode is very creative. There's a lot of creativity. For you to get from here to here takes an awful lot of creativity. But it's giving yourself the opportunity to look at it as, wow, it is creative. And the being linear is creative. Look at what I get to do. Look at the way I get to think in order to make this happen. And you're creating your mini masterpieces every step of the way.
So I don't think of it that way. It's just like, bam, how do I get to be?
Well, it's developing a softness around.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. Just, because Chuck and I both talked about perfectionism and how the corners are being rounded. So I think that's part of it. But we need all of our gifts need to
Absolutely.
come Absolutely. One extreme alone, it could be a little chaotic, but think of the things that get accomplished in the world because of you, Chuck, because of your determination to help people, continue through the process and not get stuck along the way.
Well, I think too that finally, after all these decades, maybe I'm gaining some wisdom.
Maybe.
Claim it, brother.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Chuck, you don't give yourself the grace of your own personal self-expression. Like, just accept it. It's just different than the way I do, or the way Barbara does, or the way Cyndi does, but it's just, it gives as much to the world. It's just a different platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's not the right way, it's not the wrong way. It's
right. Yeah, have grace.
That's right. You didn't know you were going to have a therapy session today.
Yeah,
Chuck.
right.
Oh.
We're cheerleaders. We're not therapists.
Encouragement, right? Encouragement.
Yes, it's encouragement.
So, Barbara, do you always encourage people to be creative or try to live outside the box? Because I'm always you talk about the drawings. I'm the inside the line guy.
Well, maybe we need to do some work about outside the line.
Yes, exactly right. But see, now I'm saying to myself, you know, if I'm outside the line, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I told that story, but I agree. I'm like, whatever.
When I was in grade school, I doodled the entire time language was going on. It never, ever stopped.
No, I
Doodle all the time.
Here's my doodle notebook.
Yeah.
I mean,
we even have a doodle notebook.
Yeah. So yesterday I was in an art class, and she wanted us to do a drawing of a doodle of a bright and shiny object. Can you see this? I don't know if you can see it.
No, not so easily.
Oh, well.
Diamond? Is it a diamond?
Well, there's a diamond on top of this little girl's head. It's so there.
You kind of see it now, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's in pencil. But you
Yeah.
know, okay, go and doodle a shiny thing. Oh, all right. So it's just, yeah, I carry around a doodle notebook.
That's interesting.
I love it.
Just doodles.
I love it.
Fast.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's just so much fun.
Well, all of our gifts are valuable, and
Yeah,
we all bring something to the party.
absolutely.
We definitely, you know, smooth each other out and keep each other in line. You know, so for those of us who are a little more structured, you know, it's like, come on back to the party, Barbara. You know, Barbara's off create another party.
Yeah, I'm all the way over there. But the thing I think that we all can remember is that no matter what we're doing, it's creative, and that our creativity is constantly being called upon in order for us to do what it is we do.
So is creativity connected to allowing yourself to be vulnerable?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It can.
that's definitely a good word, because you're going outside your comfort zone in many cases, right?
Yeah. Until there's a real understanding of what our creative process is. Because again, creativity, when you talk about creativity, and I talk to people, oh, I'm not an artist. I don't have a creative bone in my body. Well, you've lived this life, you've lived your life to this point. Something's in there.
Good point.
It doesn't all reflect back, Barbara, to what you were saying, is most people are looking at creative of what they can do versus their beingness.
Right. It's the end product instead of the process.
Right.
Right. Exactly. That's what I think.
Yeah. And who we're being is way more important than what we're doing.
That's why being alive is an art.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for accepting the invitation to be part of this wake-up party. And, you know, all it takes is another person to create the spark.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
Start us on, you know, just having that awareness. So lots of really juicy nuggets to be able to savor and chew on. And thank you for those of you who are on the line, who joined us. Be sure to, if this conversation was of value to you, which I know it was for me personally, and I'm hoping it was for you as well, please do subscribe to our Exceptional Connections channel and ring the bell so that you get the notification for when the next video is dropped. And Barbara, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance with us on this call today.
It was my gladness. It was fun.
It was fun. It was great. Thanks for those of you who are on the line as well, and wishing all you guys well. Come join us again. We're getting into a rhythm of doing this once a month now. So thanks for joining us. Take care, guys.
Yay.
I want to ask you a question after Cyndi turns the recording off.
Okay.